Good morning again, Young People's Family. I hope that you guys are all doing well in your separate spaces. Or of course, those who are still, we are still getting to see. We like that too. Update from my house. If you haven't checked out our butterfly camera, all of our caterpillars are in their chrysalises. So if you don't know what that is, I sent out a Kid Reports message about it. If you're not on Kid Reports, please let me know. You are welcome to private message me for that. It was um, you would need to get onto mydlink.com or download the MyDlink app and then use my credentials to sign in. So I'm just giving that out to people I know because it's a camera in my house and that feels awkward to just put it on the whole internet. So feel free to message me if you don't have that information, but it's a camera pointed at our caterpillars who are now hanging upside down as chrysalises, and we will put them in our little butterfly um, thing, net thing, soon, and then watch them turn into butterflies. And hopefully the weather is nicer than it is today when we release them, but it looks like it's going to get nice again. So just what we need in the middle of all this pandemic, and telling you guys to get your kids playing and outside is a whole bunch of snow, but we haven't tried to make any sort of snowman or see how kind of wet and thick it is, but well, it's supposed to be a little over 40 today, I think. So hopefully that'll get going. But so that's going on here. Otherwise, just trying to keep those routines and settle into things and make those flexibility and choices and the why we're doing parts of it, like I talked about yesterday, which is, always a process to keep talking about. But people here are doing pretty well with it. These kids have a lot of appointments, so that interrupts our day a little bit, but also gives them some good contact with other people. If you are still enrolled and haven't taken advantage of teachers' phone calls or care packages or online tools and things that they're offering, I know that they really want to do that. And so far we haven't, let anybody go. So we are, they really want to be teachers. So feel free to rub your kids into those things. And I know a lot of little kids are not good at conversations, and we don't expect any kid under the age of 2 to be doing any sort of screen time with us, but we would love to connect with you, and teachers are working real hard on their planning for those things. So, let us be in the loop. As I said, I am going to start talking about some of my favorite topics to talk about for parents. And so today is about rest and how important rest is. And then I will attach an infographic that I made for a training I did about this a while ago. But there are kind of 3 reasons that we really want to focus on rest. And again, this is a lot of the things I say are trying to give you tools on how to say these things to kids. Because we want to make sure that the kids understand the why of the things that we present to them. So, some of this you might say you know that already, but if you could listen for ways that you might be able to talk to your kids about it, that's kind of what I'm going for here. So, so rest has kind of 3 components of important things. One is that it is needed to store all of the learning that we just did. That's the time during our rest times, or the time that our brain sorts and files and gets rid of garbage and all of those things. And just like we clean our room, if we don't clean our brains out, we won't be able to find the information that we need. So all of the learning we did is not as effective. A second reason we need rest is that brains are just like other muscles. They need water, and they need good food, and they need rest. And just like other muscles, they will get tired, and when they get tired, often that makes you feel crazy and difficult making decisions. And we say a lot, our brain is not turned on right now in our house, and we need to rest so that our brain is turned on. And then also about rest is that all brains, even adult brains, need rest. And we're very bad sometimes at showing that to kids. So, there's some ways that we typically use rest that I think that we can change. One of those is that we often treat rest as a time out, as taking a space or a consequence, and we impose things like early bedtimes. And that's, I still do that a lot until talk to my kids about, like, your brain doesn't seem turned on and we should go to do rest. We got to have an intent behind that that isn't to separate them from us, to go with them to rest, at least at the beginning, or to show them ways that it's okay to do that. But we can use it, we can talk to them about it being a treat, like, oh, luckily we have time to rest, because we seem like we're really tired. Um, so using it and trying to change the intent behind how we talk about that. And then also to use rest, make sure that rest is built into our routine. We talked about the routines here at our house yesterday, but what kind of parts of the routine can we build rest into that? So, we just got done with, our academic time, or for younger kids, that's really going to be a heavy play time, and just making sure that the next thing that we have is some sort of rest, whether that be outside or inside. But just kind of changing up how our brain is being used at the moment. And then also using, give me a second, I'm going to pause. Yeah, people have woken up from their rest. And then also using rest as a precursor to exciting things. Like, if we can rest now, then we can stay up a little bit later, or we can stay longer at the party we're going to, or those kind of things. So using it as an incentive to make other good things happen, and kind of teaching kids that, sometimes we need to plan ahead of time, and rest is part of that plan ahead of time. So then, some tips about how to make rest, or what rest could look like, because that can look like a lot of different things. But we talk a lot about the kids that rest is some alone time. So we're not using that kind of, the dog is on top of the chair, he got really tall. We're not doing some of those other brain things that happen when we're with other people. Rest is sleep, but it's also similar things to sleep. So, it can look like a lot of things, but it shouldn't have any toys or those kind of objects. You can certainly have, stuffed animals and things that make it cuddly, but that's not toys, because, our kids, we hope, are using their good imaginations while they're playing with those toys. I apologize. I'm going to pause you guys one more time while I go rescue this puppy that's gotten locked in our room. Just a second. The reality of working from home at COVID-19 2020. So there are other things that rest could look like a little bit. Reading books in your bed or on the couch. This is sometimes really hard for smaller children because they don't have that internal voice that we have. So they're looking at those pictures, but they're trying to make up that story. So they're talking a lot. And we really want there to be, no kid voices and no adult voices at the time of resting is preferable. So that can be tough, but to let them know that, like, hey, you can't really do that thing where, you read silently if you're reading the words. So we can try to just look at the pictures and make that story up in your head and talk to them through some of that. Sometimes coloring to quiet music, depending on your kids' level and activity of coloring. Some kids still, it's a lot of motor skills, but especially for older kids, coloring to quiet music is a very good one. And then you can also listen to a story. Calm.com has kids sleep stories that I think are really great. Then obviously parents reading books to kids is always good. For some kids, rest can look like painting or dancing or building things or touching things or swinging. So you can kind of note those things that don't pull out really big brain activity for your kids and really seem to help reset them. And sometimes that's different for different kids. There are certainly, especially older kids, that building with Legos is a huge brain reset for them. So just kind of looking at finding some of those other things, and then how can you provide that in a space that's quiet and otherwise. So then the other thing that is that we need to be adults who are giving examples. So as adults, we need to give examples, like I said before, of us resting too. And so that is, often we say the things that are rest for us, and include screens with that, watching TV or being on our phones. And we, often say that rest can only be inside, and often we do not put any value on the rest. Oh my goodness. So we need to do things to set an example for that, like take naps, which is a good example for kids. Nap with them. Although I understand that's the time to get things done. I'm the worst at demonstrating rest. But we need to also show kids how to rest without screens. And there are other times and places to rest. So we can do our playtime at the park, on the playgrounds right now, but and then rest by, we brought a blanket and we lay down in the grass, or other things similar to that. So just making sure that we can show examples of rest. We've attempted quite a few rest times here at my house outside, and we're working on practicing that. And it takes practice. And just because it wasn't successful the first time doesn't mean that you can't try it again. And we, have tried it several times. It gets better every time. It's not perfect yet. It's still hard to not use our voices and think of outside as a ramping up time, but it's a really good place to reset and do some other kinds of rest. And it's nice, a lot of the weather, not all the weather, but a lot of the weather is nice to rest in these days, especially at that time in the afternoon when it's warm, but it's not at times we're going to get, too much fun at this point. So a lot of times we talk about rest a lot when kids are in trouble. Again, our brains aren't turned on is a good example in my house. And we talk about rest is needed when we see things that are not acceptable or approved behaviors. And, the only time that rest gets attention is when those things are happening. And we also want to kind of switch that up for kids. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but talking about how kids are doing when they're doing well and attributing that to rest. So look at how easy that problem was for you to solve, or how much easier that was than yesterday. It must be because you got some really good rest and your brain was ready and turned on doing those things. Making restful activities a prize for doing some other things. So if you brush your teeth, then we'll have time to read books before bed, or some other things that are restful activities. And it's probably not going to fly for most kids, but that the actual rest time is the prize, but the restful kinds of activities. So the faster, our kids here brush our teeth, then the faster that we get more time to read books or scratch backs before bed or sing songs. So they know that those things, those more restful activities are tied to that. And then also, we talked about this a little bit, but when discussing the routines for the day, trying to include those times of rest and really making that known to kids, that's what you are doing, that the rest is there and it's important and it's, pre-planned and it's going to happen. And so that hopefully when they are later in life planning their days in their heads, then, what does that look like? And hopefully you can plan in some rest for you too. This is a high stress time. Even if you're doing well, even if you're handling it well, even if you still have your job, even if you don't have your job, even if you have your job and your kids are coming to school, like all of these things, the world is very crazy and unknown right now. So we will get through this, and we will get through this together. And luckily we are all in it together. It is not a one-man problem, and there is nobody not affected. So we have to be in this together, and we will do that. But that doesn't mean it's not stressful, and you don't need rest, and you don't need your brain to be able to file all the information it's taking in, because this is different information than normal, no matter who you are. So, make sure that you are planning your own rest times in and showing kids that and telling them you need that too. It's important. So if you need some tools around that, give me some specifics and I can shoot some information back. But there you go. That's my little spiel on rest. And I hope you guys are going to have a great day. It's a little snowy, but hopefully it'll melt soon and we can all get back to our regular outside things. Till then, you can do some restful things inside, color some pictures. I would love to see some pictures that people color. You can post them on here, some kids' pictures. I get far fewer of those these days than I used to, and I miss them. So I miss all of you guys too, and think about you all the time. And we will talk to you soon.